Jason McKenzie, welcome to the Raw, mate. Actually, you've walked in here and throwing stick at me for the rugby commentary on Friday. Do you want to repeat that, publicly? Are you going to stand by that or just do that off the record?
No comment.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Well, I'll say it then. You got told that you'd have to come into the podcast and carry me just like Scotty did on the the live stream commentary, Southland Otago pre-season on Friday, right?
No comment.
That's good.
To be fair, you're operating beside a guy that's got a fair bit of knowledge on the whole situation.
Scotty, an outstanding commentator. There's certainly no doubt about that, and the only reason I said yes to doing that. Jace, welcome in. There's plenty to talk about. Let's have your Academy Southland hat on to start. How good is it from a program point of view to see so many of your graduates lining up at an Olympics? That must be something pretty special for the organisation.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks for the welcome. And I won't throw Carly into it all. She never said that about you.
Great, that's what I was after. Okay, good.
And it's massively proud, I guess, to see what's happened. Like when you sit down, that's what you plan for. We talk about, we sit down, we say, hey, this is where you can be in 4 or 5 years, and when they get there, it's pretty amazing. Interesting thing was, it's that piece around how long does it take. And interesting, like I said, that 215, 216 years, so it's pretty much 2 Olympic cycles for those 4 of those athletes to be in that year group. Obviously with Alena and Corbin being before, but it's sort of 4 to 8 years is sort of where we fit, and it's pretty special to see that happen, really, and for them all to be there at the same time. It's just it blows your mind. That's what you sit down, vision and goals, and you think that you set big hurly ones, and then they come through. So it's pretty cool.
Were the signs there in 2015, 2016 as they were coming through?
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive group, actually. When you look at their names on the walls, there's a few others that are the Bradley Knipes, and there's a few of those other athletes that are sitting there as well. There's a whole lot of them. The Tipa Mbunga, who you've had on here as well, and as an athlete, there's a whole lot of them in that sort of group. Emma Cumming was in that group. I remember sitting around, look at that group at that time, thinking, wow, there's some pretty special kids here.
When in the early days of the academy, was there any sort of thought around what we want to achieve around this, around potentially, getting a number of athletes to the Olympics, or because 5 is extraordinary, really.
Yeah, yes and no. Like the whole purpose of the program set up was, it was way back then. It was Mike Piper and Kieran, and they talked about filling that gap between the community and the talent, and giving our Southland kids a boost to get into that level. And we talked about in those first group of athletes that came through that we really were on that path with Tom Scully's, Jess Hamill, Natalie Wiggersma and Eddie Dawkins. They were the first group that sort of came through in that piece, and they were sort of at that Olympics together as well. Obviously Jess wasn't there, but those 3 were there as well. So it was there's 2 initially, but it was no number, but that's always been the goal. It's about Olympic, Commonwealth Games, World Championships, so absolutely, but not really in a numbers sort of form.
Are you connecting with them in Paris?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there's a bit of a mixture, really. So it's a funny old world, isn't it? But as it turns out that over the last couple of years, I've re-engaged with particularly Tori and Nicole Shields in delivering their, performance mindset skills directly with them. So that's been pretty exciting, actually, to be back in that, because often you hand them over as they go away, which has been great for them to come back and connect directly with me. And that role's been pretty awesome. And obviously Alena's in that sevens environment, and Tom in the bike environment as well. But the others, it's certainly pretty cool to be doing directly with a couple of them as well.
So tell us a little bit about what's involved in that. So what does that mean? What sort of value are you adding to them?
Yeah, I guess so. It's come this way in HP sport that the athlete gets a bit more of a say in their support team and who they want and how they want that to operate. So started working with Tori probably 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, when she just wanted a bit of a change and was going through a change of coach, and so she sort of did her performance team, and we was very connected around that. I knew her and knew how she ticked and what she sort of needed in that performance mindset space. So we started that a couple of years ago and started working sort of sporadically, and then become sort of part of it, and then so basically would be sort of monthly connections with her, and then spend a bit of time in Cambridge a couple of times with her, observing a bit of stuff and seeing her at nationals, and then sort of evolved, and then as you evolve, and now it's every 2 or 3 days at the moment as the pressure comes on and that stuff as well. She's been down in Nice, and she's actually in Montenegro originally. It's a bit of an interesting place to start her build up, and then down to Nice, and now she's in Montpellier at a pre-camp, and then it'll head into the village. And Nicole, a little bit the same. Hers is an interesting story, actually. Probably about 3 years ago, she turned up with her dad, really, and she was really struggling with her health. Could hardly walk up a hill. So it's a bit of a journey back to full health with her, and that just supporting her along the way. And as that sort of happened, that's just involved to a more regular piece of work with her as well. So again, with her, it's as they get close to this stuff, it turns to be in 2 or 3 days, or whenever something good or bad happens. So it's been really cool to be part of that as well.
We've sort of got used to having a good contingent going from Southland going to the Olympics now, but it hasn't always been the case. I mean, obviously with the Academy's role, what say advantages may that provide in those early days of sort of transferring into high performance, I suppose, than maybe a kid in another part of the country in a regional space, I suppose?
For us, it was all about we obviously have challenges in Southland that we don't have other places. We can't get the level of competition, whether it be on the sevens field or on the, even on the bike or throwing or whatever it is. We don't have that level of competition. So we had a real goal of making sure that athletes are more prepared than any athlete in New Zealand in terms of their support, in terms of their nutrition understanding, instead of their strength conditioning, in terms of their mental skills, instead of how they operate in their athlete life space. That's a real goal of ours. So when they get to that level, they're able to take that next step really successfully, and that's been a goal of ours, and that's sort of come to fruition. So when they get there, they're able to take that next step into that level, and hopefully that's what we do, and certainly the feedback we get from the national coach as well. Your kids are ready to go, and even the kids themselves going, well, people don't know how to eat the right things before they race. They don't know this stuff. How come they don't know this stuff? So for us, that was always been the goal, and I think that's probably been a key part to that.
Most of us will never know what it feels like to have our foot on the start line with, after 4, 8, 12 years of build-up, and then the gun goes, this is their moment. I mean, can you take us inside without being too specific around athletes that you've worked with, but, I mean, what is that mindset? How do they not just choke in that moment?
Well, some do. And really interesting, isn't it? Like you saw that final of the 400 Erica's race that that world-class field, and not one of them did a PB.
Right.
And that's the reality. The reality is that over sort of, I think it's close to 70-80% of athletes don't PB at the Olympics, which is quite bizarre, really, right? 4-8 years preparing for that one moment, and they actually don't PB. And that's often because of that pressure piece as well. So that pressure piece, so it's those, we talk about it, and John Oliver talks about it, he's a sports psychologist from Australia, talks about being an ordinary performance on a special day. And so actually being able to just hold that mindset in that space to bring your very, very best without trying to do something completely different on that day as those athletes that actually do the very best. So really interesting, isn't it? It's that, and we're talking about this more with a couple of them, and it's that, it's in that space where you finish and you go, what were you thinking? And they go, I've got no idea. Bang, you're on. You're right on it, because they've got no idea. They're totally present and totally in the moment. That's the piece they're looking for, and they actually don't know how to find it. But then they go, well, I don't know. You've heard it before when they say to athletes, oh, what were you thinking? And they go, I don't know. And you go, boom, you're totally present in that moment. And it's an interesting thing, and it's come around a little bit. It's that pressure piece, and I've used it as the middle name, but they talk about, I'm just doing this. I'm just putting my helmet on. I'm just getting on my bike. I'm just at the top of my run-up. And it's like that, just being like, I'm just in this moment. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not trying to be anything else. I'm just here. And that's trying to be that present piece, because it's so hard with so much else going on to be able to do that in that moment. So it's like preparing for that moment, because they know how to run fast. They know how to bike fast. They know how to throw things. It's their mind that gets in the road of stopping them. So it's fascinating.
It must be really difficult for some of those sports that don't have a lot of attention in between Olympics. And then all of a sudden the athletes are in this situation where they're living in a village, and NBA players or whatever are walking around the place, and it must be hard for them to. Oh, and then there's a lot of media around that maybe weren't around and when they're competing in other events, because there's not that profile. That must be the challenge, but to have to deal with for some of those athletes.
Yeah, and that's exactly probably the reason why my NZOC, New Zealand Olympic Committee role was formed probably 3.5 years ago, was for those sports to support. They talked about transition, wellbeing and mental skills for those the non-supported, non-traditional sports. So that's where my role with the Olympics started. So it's working with the taekwondos, it's the wrestlings, it's the judos, it's the tennis, for all the badmintons, those type of sports that don't have that support, because again, and they get there, not only that, they have physios on tap, doctors on tap that they've never had before, so all of a sudden they're doing this stuff that they've never done before.
Yeah.
And so that's a massive distraction as well. And you said the Olympic Village, the 24-hour food hall, every type of food you can imagine. So all of a sudden they're going, having an entree, a dessert, and a main, and they never used. They're scraping a living in youth
Hard
hostels.
to walk past that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for support staff to walk past that stuff as well. So, and there's a Coke machine where you have a little thing and you just swipe it and whatever you like comes out of it. So those temptations. So absolutely that overwhelmingness of that environment is hard, and some athletes purposely stay away from that, and others go in that. Talking to Erin Rootliff, and she was talking about how some of the tennis players and their federations keep them out of the Olympics and the hotels to keep away from that distraction. But for her, she was part of the experience was going in and getting amongst that. So it's a massive thing, and you can't explain it. It's just kind of bizarre when you get there and just people are walking around and you're going, wow, look at that. Whoa. It's pretty special when there's just guys fencing in the backyard as they're practicing, and gymnasts doing flips and stuff. It's just it's quite a surreal place to be.
Yeah.
It's like, as I reflect on that, and as you're talking, Jace, too, because you are right, physically once everyone gets there, you get to that level, there ain't that much difference between them, right? So it is all about performance in the moment, you know. So in some ways, the types of role, I'm teeing you up here, but the types of role that people like yourself play to assist that whole mindset piece has got to be the crucial element, right?
Yep. But it's also not just the athletes. Really interesting, and in that environment, it's not just the athletes; it's the people around them. So often, what we found is the most jumpy people are the coaches and the support staff.
Yeah.
All right. So because you get there and they've done all they can, and it's up to the athlete, and then they start about jumping the coaches and start questioning themselves about, have I done enough? Have I done the right thing? And then the athletes see them and they're like, do they think I'm not okay? So the athletes are actually often very, very good at it. Often it's the coach and support staff that we have to do a lot of work with those environments to keep them calm as well, because they just feed off them, right? And they say, well, I'm feeling really prepared. Why are you asking me that question? So there's that an element as well, because there's all that stuff, and then there's the family element of people preparing for their family, the social media piece. Tori's done a cool thing, you'll notice. So Stacey's done a takeover of her social media for that very reason, just to get off that piece. They have really clear rules with their families about when they can and can't speak to them, all that type of stuff, just to let them, because otherwise the hype actually, there's all that other stuff around them that needs to be kept calm so that they can just get through their like I said, their ordinary performance and not try to make it something special and massive on the day. So it's multifaceted. It's not just as simple as the athlete. They have so many parts of their life as well, and things happen in their families. Having a plan, like they're over there and something happens to some key person in their family, do you get told or you not get told? But having that discussion,
Yes,
because all those things can affect that as well. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Like, it's the old cliche. It's that when you talk about pinnacle events like this, and it doesn't matter whether it's a grand rugby final or a Ranfurly Shield Challenge or an Olympics, there's probably those two schools of thought. Yes, it's just another performance, and all I'm going out there is to play footy for 80 minutes, and I've done that all my life. Or you embrace that kind of moment, So how do you reconcile both those things? Because there's advantages to pull out of both of those sides of that conversation, isn't there?
Yep, I'm a massive believer in actually doing both.
Yeah, right.
So the pieces are out. Is it a Ranfurly Shield? Yes, it is. How cool is that? Is it the Olympics? Yep. Spend a couple of days, spend a day walking around going, how cool is this? Yeah. What amazing thing. And so embracing that piece of it, right? And then once you've done that, it's not a surprise. So again, often I talk to athletes sometimes that they have national anthems before they play to actually practice. So stand in front of your mirror and play the national anthem. So you've felt that emotion. So then when you've experienced that, so you've done that piece, and then you can focus on that ordinary stuff that you're going to do. So for me, it's the real connection of that, and that's gold, right? I remember one of the referees I worked with that refereed the All Blacks for the first time, And that's something never sat in front of the New Zealand national anthem, and he purposely went through that. So, and he's like, emotional, because then when you go out there, it's like, whoa, you don't get sucked in by that, and then you can reset yourself and do the next piece. For me, it's a bit of both.
Talking to the athletes as you have been, and obviously you were in Tokyo, which is a very different sort of an Olympic Games experience, obviously with COVID. And they've talked about it a little bit in the commentary that I've been watching, just the difference of the crowd coming back, and how this is a quite a different Olympic experience again. Has that been coming through with some of the discussions you've been having?
It's more that the other stuff that's around, like, because families are there beforehand, there's much more media around beforehand, there's other things going on. That's the difference so far. It's like the crowds actually were surprisingly not a big deal for some of them, and for others they were, but in general terms it's the noise. So we talk about this business, and we do workshops with athletes about navigating the noise, and often it's the noise that goes around from the outside, and also that noise in their head. But it's that extra noise probably is what they've noticed, and again, that's the social media turning that off, because there was nobody around. There wasn't family coming to visit, there wasn't people saying hello, there wasn't messages and stuff like that as well. So that's definitely and up the whole atmosphere and the pressure that they feel and the expectation as well. So that's another piece for sure that they're experiencing.
Just, a risk of singling out an athlete, but we've talked a couple of times on this podcast around the resilience that Tori Peeters has shown to get to this point. Obviously, our javelin thrower. From the outside, it's been pretty obvious. But what has it been like working with her to get to that point? She's had some setbacks, and as mentioned other times, probably could have easily waved the white flag at times, but hasn't, and continued to get to this point. What have you seen from inside working with her that has, I guess, made her that person that is willing to just keep trucking and to the goal of getting to the Olympics?
Yeah, she's an amazing athlete, eh? And even, did you see the presentation the other day? So the last javelin thrower to throw at the Olympics was before she was born, and it was Kirsten Hallier, her coach.
Right.
And when she presented the black singlet the other night, that was obviously Kirsten that did that to her. So that's how long it was as well. So for her, yeah, absolutely. That time was really tough for her. And interestingly, in my role, probably 60% of the athletes I work with don't make the Olympics.
Right.
So you don't hear about those athletes as well, right? No. You don't hear about those things. So for Tori, it was tough, but also, I guess, in the sense that she knew it sort of fueled her fire, and she's one of those. She's a gore girl, right? So she wants to prove a few people wrong, and that as well. But making sure that that's not her motivation for doing the piece, but that's what has set herself up for. And she was really clear what the next 4 years were going to look like for her, and just again going piece by piece. And don't get me wrong, it hasn't gone smoothly as well. But and some of her best performances, ironically, have been when her preparation or the stuff hasn't gone that well. So she's getting used to doing what she's doing, and we have a bit of a saying with her about it's about doing the best with what you have instead of wishing you had something else, right? Because you could always wish I had this preparation, wish I this person, wish I had this. So that's been part of that with her, is just really appreciating that. And like all athletes, a bit of a cliche, but just really engaging with that gratitude piece. It's like, yep, I didn't get that, but how good is that I've got this opportunity to do it now? It's a massive thing, and I think we do it more and more with athletes, but just that gratitude piece, like, wow, how cool is this? I still get this opportunity. And she's worked really, really hard on that. It's one of the most complicated sports that you can see. You're trying to run, jump, and throw. Sounds really simple, but watching her train and seeing her trying to put that together it's fascinating.
The
and
timing
it's
must be
so hard to get that right. And that's what's going to happen on that day as well.
Because they completely overplay to me, when they say, oh, this length of throw would have won a silver medal at the last Olympics, or something like that. Where in reality, like 59 metres could win a gold medal at this event, isn't it? So it really, as you're saying, it's coming down to those very small incremental improvements, or just whatever you can bring on the day.
Yeah, totally, or be able to on that day bringing that performance that creates pressure on somebody else.
Yes.
Because you get that first one out there, that's that crucial piece, and to get into that final, the top 8 or whatever it is, it's like that's the first piece, and then what that pressure creates by getting one out there, it's not necessarily going to be that massive throw that wins it. So for her, that's the focus. So she's had some great consistency of performance over the last couple, and getting that first couple out. It's really, really important, not only from your own confidence point of view, but from creating that pressure on the others. So you're 100% right. And again, wind conditions, the conditions so different in each day. It's it'll be hard to fathom. But she's again, you're in a stadium that's massive and it's packed, and listening to people that have been, at the Sevens, just like that's going to be a full on stadium. But again, her fiance's been there for the Sevens and talked about what the loudness is going to like, what it's like. So again, she's got that feeling of knowing what it's going to be like, not just getting surprised by that. And we've got strategies to embrace that. But she went to London, a Diamond League, and she said that was massive as well. And your photo has a big screen, and and they focus on the people in the crowd that are yours, and see all that emotional stuff. You've got to be ready for that, because that's going to be part of it as well.
So using her as the jumping off point, because we'll go through all of the Southland athletes. I mean, how does it work? Does she have a goal? Or is it's obviously process driven, and she'll go out and try and throw it as far as she can, I'm guessing.
Yep.
But what defines success in terms of the Olympic campaign for Tori, do you reckon?
Great question, actually. Probably I can't answer that for her.
No, it's a question for her.
Yeah, totally. I think for her, and it is about, I guess, for all of them, it's about like having left the playing arena, knowing you've done your very, very best, no matter what happens. And I think for them, it's knowing that I've given it my best shot with what I had on that day, and they've been able to walk in there and walk away proud, because they don't want to. None of them want to walk away having not done what they came to do. And in terms of performance, absolutely, because it's a really interesting thing, and all of them experience as well, and all athletes do. It's like, so you get selection, everyone think that all the pressure comes off. The pressure just comes on, because then the expectation starts. The expectation of bringing a medal home, doing whatever it's coming, and that's what they all struggle with, to be able to get to that point, and the expectation of themselves, of friends and family, of New Zealand, all that type of stuff weighs massively on them. So that's the point for her. It'll all be knowing that all the work she's done, she's able to put that together and let one go. And that'll be really important for her.
Let's talk about Alena. Now, we should give the advisory that as we record this, of course, it's Tuesday evening, so with a bit of luck, by the time this gets posted, you never know. There's some form of medal. We know what colour we would like that to be, but obviously the Sevens women will play overnight in a semi-final, and then hopefully a final as well. There's another story from a resilience point of view that is a big theme in terms of Alena's recent times, right?
Yeah, that injury again. It's one of those things where she wasn't sure whether she was going to get back in time for selection.
Yep.
And again, she was literally just playing as a warm-up game of touch on the field, and boom, it's as simple as that, and that can happen for those athletes. So for her, it was back into that hurt box where she's been before with a serious injury, and going through that. She said it wasn't this bad this time when you've got your captain beside you, working her butt off as well, and seeing what that was like. So for her, it was like literally again getting to that point of she's playing her best, some of her best sevens. Boom, the injury happens, and she's literally starting again and fighting to get herself back in contention. So again, that's the stuff, and so again that piece is like, wow, I've done work so hard to get her, and here I am again for her. So it's a fantastic achievement just to go through that with her and Gim. It's a world-class team. It's like, and you're in that team, it's that hardest piece. But yeah, getting on the field, and you've got the Stacey Fewlers and the others sitting beside you on the bench as well. It's pretty surreal for her. So
you got to love the fact 2016 she's sitting in the girls' high gym watching the Black Ferns win a silver medal, and she's like, I want to be there next time. And then, so what turns out to be 5 years later, she's there in Tokyo, and first Southland female to win an Olympic gold medal. It's the whole, if you can't see it, you can't be it. It's pretty inspiring, isn't it?
Yep, and that's the cool thing about the program, right? We can then the next one, so like Alena sat here, Corbin sat here, Tom sat here, and the same chair that you're sitting in, 4 or 5 years ago, and you can absolutely be that. And Alena and Tori, Tom, they're great. They come back and they walk into our program, and they're talking to these kids about doing exactly that. And that's what the inspiring piece is like. And you're 100% right. You can see it, you can be it, and that's very close for them. It's so exciting to be able to see them do that, and every one of them wants to come back and give back, which is amazing as well.
What about on the bike? I mean, let's start with Nicole. And maybe unpack that story a little bit about where she's, in terms of what she's battled back from. It's a phenomenal story in itself to get to this point. And we know we it's all about this next chapter, of course, that would just cap that story quite nicely. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and it's just about connections, isn't it, really? So it was interesting, her both her dad and her uncle was involved in footy actually with the Midlands Rugby Club when I was way back in the day and stuff. And Nicole was in our program, even though she grew up on the. She's a Riversdale girl, grew up across the road from Tori, which was a great story. And then headed away to Alexandra, but rode for South all the way through and was in a P reserve in Tokyo for the women's endurance team. So was sort of on the up and up, and then got herself, had some major sort of health issues, and really was struggling to walk up a hill really, and arrived round to our place one time in the holidays and said, this girl needs some help, we're not going too good. So started that journey with her way back then really, just to get her health back so she could ride her bike literally, and then the confidence to ride her bike again, which was quite amazing really. So she built that, she's going out on the road and thinking, well, I don't know if I can do this and stuff, so worked her way through that.
So correct me, and sorry to stop you, but just tell me, and perhaps we don't want to dig into it too much, but you drive this, was that a physical thing or a mental thing in
Both.
terms of,
Yep.
yeah, right.
Both, because there was a physical piece about just being able to get through a session,
yeah,
and then mentally the confidence to be able to do that and what that looked like. And Nicole's an amazing person, loves being planned and organised and structured. It's an absolute strength, and that was going out the window because anything she planned, she'd know if she could finish. So there was that piece, and then worked herself into contention, worked herself into that position. There was, getting into again a world-class team.
Yep.
That you're trying to get into, so it's pretty hard, right? So she was right on that, like Alena, right on that last minute to get herself to prove herself for fitness, and got herself into that position and won that selection. And then she's still just working her way. Went to Hong Kong for the World Cup over there. It was a bit of a race for her and managed to pick up food poisoning the night before. Her and the physio was in a room, sick as, got out, ride a bike, proved herself again, got herself through, and then into this next phase over there and into the build-up. And there she's just getting stronger and stronger, and so she's in a great spot. Team's in a great spot, so she's got a real simple role. She's a starting role, which is new for her, leading that team off, which is exciting. You got some big power coming behind you, so again, it's good to, even for her to be there, it's pretty exciting really. It's like, as she said, like, this is the easy part really. The hard part's been done.
Yeah, right. What a situation that is, if that's the attitude, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So her role will be off the front, so she'll nail it out of the starting gate.
Yep.
Off she goes.
Yep.
And then pulls off with however long to go?
Yeah,
or tries to hang in as long as she can?
Yeah, I think all their structures are a little bit differently, aren't they? But they tend to the sort of latest, as Nick, this world as well, is they'll hit a couple of laps and get her up to pace and get off and get back on and do a couple more off the front, and then her job's done really, and they'll finish it off. So that's the structure of pretty much most of those teams nowadays. So,
and when you talk about expectation, there's a lot around that women's endurance, team pursuit especially, right? So that is all about performance. They go in as, what is it, Nate? The top ranked or number one from an Olympics rankings point of view. They're right up there anyway,
right up there. It's an interesting one. I think in Olympic year, nations just tend to they'll almost come from nowhere though. And it can be really interesting just to see. I mean, a lot of those countries really target Olympic year, don't they? And everyone seems to go very fast
Australia
this year.
Yeah.
And that's the one difference. That's probably one sport I reckon where they tend to go faster, don't they? That's when world records and stuff do get broken at cycling. So that's they tend to, because they target that. So it's going to be a massive challenge for them as well. And she's ready. They're all ready. So it's exciting.
That's good. Tom Sexton. I mean, look, he's been, I guess, what is he? 25 years old. Yet he seems to have been part of that elite high performance men's endurance program for a long, long time, right?
Yeah, and I said that about Tom about the Commonwealth Games. So hats off to Tom. He's been knocking away at that door for a long, long time, and he's got himself in a position to be, and again, in a world-class team with world-class riders, and all credit to him. And again, you're surrounded by some pretty impressive young men and an old man in Gatey, as they like to call him. So again, he's excited. They're travelling really well. They did their simulation days already, so Gatey get over there and fly the flag. So they're pretty excited for him as well. But again, Tom's got a key role to play. He knows what his role is, and it's just about him going and executing that. So he's on track for that as well.
Do you feel like have you had a sense that they have a point to prove? Obviously, they had the mishap 3 years ago, and Gatey was involved in that. Like, has there sort of been a rock under the blanket ever since?
I think that goes without saying with those guys. They all want to do that really, really well, and this is the place to do it. But as you said, it's so hard at that Olympic level because it's so different from the Commonwealth Games, because every country is there, and some of those guys come back off the road and that as well, don't they? And come into that space. So it's the men's is really, really competitive. I think it'll be interesting to see.
And from a road race point of view, Corbin Strong will be going Saturday, won't he? Yeah, I suppose there was another coming back from injury. We know that he in a sprint finish found himself on the tarmac, but he's obviously bounced back well. When you have a look at his past week, where was he in Belgium and finished second and overall on a countback. Literally could have won his first, general classification title as a pro rider leading into the Olympics. So he'll take that. Must really be. Close to the perfect build-up leading into an Olympic road race, which, let's be honest, as we talked about last week, is a bit of a lottery as well, too, the definition of one, right?
Yeah, although yes, but also I think I'm pretty sure this is the case, and you correct me, but I think there's actually only 4 from each country allowed.
Right.
So, which is different again. So, and we've got 2, so we've actually got a bit more of an opportunity rather than those big fields and stuff before. And Lawrence Pithy's obviously going pretty well, and the course, I think, suits both him and Corbin, so that's pretty exciting. I think Nicole was saying that the course actually goes past the cycling hotel as well, so it's a pretty good So it's the course sort of suits both those riders. So and he's in again exceptional form and coming up the right side, but it is a bit of a lottery because of the nature of the road race itself. But also he's in great form, and Corbin's Corbin, right? He's pretty special. He can do. Yeah, he's able to do those special things. Really, it's interesting to see how he goes. Comes Saturday night.
Yeah, 9 o'clock start.
9 o'clock. So
that's a late night, isn't it?
It's a big shift, that one.
How far?
Bunkering in
237 kilometres.
So what time am I staying up to on Saturday night?
That's late for you, Sam.
That's 5. It could be 5. Is it how flat is it? You probably do. You know? Have you looked at the elevation map?
3,000 kilometres of ascent or something
right,
like that.
okay.
It's very punchy. There's none of those, no big climbs, but very punchy course.
So what is that? 5 hours of racing, isn't it? Probably maybe a bit more. More. 5.5 hours seems
I thought 9 o'clock was a good start time.
You're 2:30, mate.
Put the alarm on.
Put the alarm on. It's awesome, isn't it? So have we forgotten anyone? I think there's a couple of others. The Erica Fairweather story is a really interesting one too. And I have a look at her, and I must admit I was a little frustrated. Maybe it's because I'm a little defensive because our kids grew up together actually, so know the family quite well. And it really came home to me when you talk about that pressure of the environment, right? She goes out, finishes 4th in the was that the 400, wasn't it, to start with, in the final. 20-year-old. First Olympics, first chance to go out there in the pool and perform, and finishes 4th in a world-class field as well. And then she's asked these dumb questions, leading questions by the in the neutral zone afterwards by the television, which is obviously trying to play the emotional card. Did my head in around that as well. And of course, she's very emotional and bursts into tears. She's settled really well since then, which I've loved because I think she probably herself learned some lessons out of that. But you do realise the expectation that these young athletes carry, right? It really brought it home to me.
It's tough, eh? Look, it was actually she was in Tokyo. It's her second Olympics, Nick, but she did.
Of course,
cool story about that was when she made her first Olympic final, she was like, I can still remember she came back to the village, she goes, because of course the cool lanes are in the middle, and she goes, how cool, I'm in lane 8, that's the one I swim in at the minor pool all the time.
That is awesome.
Which was really cool. She also lost the team mascot on her first day in the village as well. That's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, but again,
Did it come back?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness.
Somebody found it for her.
Okay.
But she, again, I totally agree. That pressure, but the questions that they get asked are average, to say the least. But the other pieces, I guess, is it's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
I think this is that piece around we get worried when people are disappointed and sad. It's been 4 years. Right? They've tirelessly worked for. It's actually okay to be disappointed and to be sad and just sit with that. And not have to make a big deal of that. And she will be better for it, and understand that in peace as well. So I think and you can see her, she'll bounce back and she'll grow from that as well. And all those young athletes, the older they are, the better they get at it. And it's not always possible, but that emotional state is not the best place to be doing that, I think, as well. And the care is not often there, I don't think.
So after a race where you've got two of the greatest female swimmers
Yes.
that have ever been, and a Canadian phenom who is, and then Erica was like, I don't know, hundreds of a second and fourth. Like it's
behind Katie Ledecky.
it's it's pretty
okay.
amazing. It's okay.
It's world class, and so Erica's
Really is.
Erica's a great person. She spoke again. We've used her. She spoke go into other roles, rugby academy boys and stuff, and she's spoken to Dunedin. She's come and spoke to them, and she's outstanding, explaining the work she does and how she operates. So as a role model for young athletes or young women athletes, she is fantastic. So I think even from that point of view, she will be. It's that perspective piece, right? Give it another day, give another piece. When she comes out for the next one, you'll see her continue to grow. And I totally agree. Let's just, it's a tough place. So let's not just be too hard on them.
No doubt. Right, any more Olympic chat, boys? Have we got that covered?
When's the first? Well, we might have had our first medal hopefully by the
By the
time
time
this
this,
comes out.
that's right,
would like to think so.
Yeah.
So on that, isn't that interesting? So because they talk about the media gets jumpy. The media gets worried. The media
No, we're fine. We're fine.
starts
okay.
asking those questions like it's like a when's
When's the first
when's the
medal
first
come?
one? When's the first one coming? And it sort of creates that tension as well.
does.
It's like, and it's but it's cool. It's part of it, but it's understanding that piece as well.
Would it be fair to say, though, I mean, that we were always going to battle to match Tokyo medal-wise?
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting. So what we like, and there's no secret, High Performance Sport New Zealand tracks the stuff as well.
Yeah.
It tracks so we have converts and probables and understanding of over the world champs and records and knowing where people are generally tracking. So they generally know where they're heading as the odd unicorn that pops up. So generally, I think the common sort of thing was in that sort of 14 to 16 type stuff was the general rule. So cool your jets, they're coming.
I don't want to throw you under the bus. This is probably a bit political. You can just let this pass go through to the keeper if you like. But
It's coming.
there's a duty of care. There's the pastoral care, the stuff that you're involved in. That stuff is obviously it's become more and more of a focus. We know how important it is for these athletes are people. They're not just athletes, and they don't operate in a vacuum. But do we need to accept that by putting some of that around the athletes, when it's not all about medals and performance anymore, that we might not get the massive, those big medal tallies where we box above our weight, as we always like to say at these events, or is it can we have both of those things?
No, I'm an absolute believer we can have both, because even part of that role, and even now we talk about 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months afterwards. So like 3 + 3 + 3. So we've got plans with athletes. So what they're doing post that, from a well-being. So we're success on the best day. What are they going to do? Who they're going to ring on their worst day? Who they're going to ring? So we're covering that stuff off. I'm really intentionally about that, and that's a good thing because that allows them to actually focus on that performance. Because I think we still want to be winners, right? They all want to win. They're not there to do anything else. They want to do their very, very best. So I think that focus is still utmost, and if you ask them, utmost as well, that's what they're there to do, and they want to do that. So with that comes disappointment, and with that comes, and learning to do that will grow that resilience piece. And I think, and having the protection or the safety piece of making sure we've planned that and thought about that and stuff, then they feel supported. And in a sense, athletes are more supported than Joe Public, by far more supported in terms of their well-being, because they have a wrapping of team around them, and it's the stages of that as well. So they're super well supported, and I think they know that, and they're chasing winning. And I think, they're all chasing it, and I think the people around them, and I think us as public, it's what we want, right? So I don't think there's a bad thing about that at all. It's just, it's part of that. So again, John Oliver talks about that's the price of entry. It's a really cool quote he talks about, is like, so they get there, they get selected for the team, and everyone puts it on Instagram, puts their photo up, and they're going to Tokyo and stuff, and then it gets closer and closer, and then there's all the stress and pressure and expectation comes. He said, imagine at the time if I'd got on the back of that ticket and wrote on, with this comes expectation, chance of failure, extra stress, worry, non-sleep. Do you still want to go? Of course they do. So it's the price of admission.
Good.
So
Like
that's
that.
and understanding that's really important, and I think we're better at that with athletes as well. So the price of admission.
The All Blacks talk about pressure being a privilege, don't they?
Yep, same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Unless it's on you and the 18th with one to go.
Yeah, no, it's not go there. It's
Choke. Just take that one away.
It's choke central. That is.
Absolutely. Let's get a word on the Stags before you go.
Yep.
What do you make of the group? Yeah, that's a word. Good.
We should all point out that Jason also does some work with the
Yep.
Stags.
Yep. So I've got that a bit of a performance mindset role with them again this year. So
See, you had Mills Muliaina down.
yes, I did. Yep. So I also run the personal development program. So I had a guy called Josh Coman as well down. If you ever want to chat to him about Mills, that's just about just about getting people from outside of their world and understanding that, again, the ups and downs of what that looks like and growing themselves as people as well as footy players. And I think that's, if I look at the group as well, there's a group of great young men that want to do that are here to grow themselves and engage in stuff with the community and that as well, and off the field as well as on the field. So, but shaping up, there's a good mindset around the group, and again, that piece of wanting to win. And with that mindset of being no excuses and just getting better, and so that's an absolute privilege to be part of this group. And the proof's in the pudding. Nick always say it's always the honeymoon until you played your first game.
That's right. Yeah. It's a great time of year this time.
That's the best.
Filled with hope and opportunity, and absolutely. Hey, mate, great, awesome insights, and no one can give them like you can, and really appreciate that. And I know you'll immediately deflect this onto the athletes, but congratulations and thank you from all of us, from an Academy Southland point of view, the work that you guys have put into these guys, the platforms that you're laid and continue to this very day as well. I guess when you talk about the proof of the pudding, it's plain for all of us to see, mate. So really appreciate that as well too, right?
Thank you. But we're just as you know, we're a
this is
small
you
part of it.
deflecting.
Yeah,
I
but
know.
we're a small part of the cog. But we're a small part of the cog. But it's an absolute privilege. Like to do what we do is an absolute privilege. A bit like coming on this podcast, Nick. An absolute privilege.
Okay, stop talking. There it is. Drop the mic.
So thanks, Emma. Yes, and you just feel real proud, don't you?
Yeah,
As Southlands,
it's awesome.
if we can be part of that and sit back and there might be some tears rolling down the face for sure, because it's pretty cool to watch.
It
So
really is.
whatever they do.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for your
Yeah,
time.
thanks,
Thanks,
heaps.
team.
Very good. Righto, boys. That'll do us for another edition of the Raw. We'll come back and be into it, and maybe we will. Not that we're getting edgy. We'll have a few medals to maybe talk about as well next week. Have a good week, fellas.